who's had some serious health problems last year. Called me up yesterday. He said, "Hey, can I bring some stuff out to your shop?" He had some of our inventory stuff. Now, this is one of the wig stands that I believe Jim Burt turned. This is just pine. My mother-in-law painted it. So, Ken, this needs to go with you today because we make wig stands and donate them to the In and Out Foundation. They get them to cancer patients. If you need material to do one, come see me at my shop. I will hook you up with some stuff. All right. I was pleased as punch that I finally got the keys for the Citibank cabinet because our stuff down there had been there since 2019. Yeah. The only thing I have not been able to identify who it belongs to is this pen. Yeah, I think it may end up being mine.
Inventory.
No, because I think this might have been one I won in a raffle sometime. Because a lot of times I just clean out my stuff. Now, I mentioned Citibank because we need to keep that stuff turned over. You know, at least every 6 months.
And how about the literature?
There's literature there. There's cards. Yeah.
We need some at the Garden Arts Center again.
Okay.
We're out down there.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you where to go look in the closet. There's a little box with our cards with the scan thing. Okay. One of the things I do is I do some production turning. Now, I didn't glue these up. Their glue joints are starting to fail. But, you know, they're not far off. There's minor differences, but you know, when they're this far apart, you're not going to see that. And, you know, I've got several different shapes that I've got to get kicked out in the next week or so. But, you know, here's the one I'm working on right now. But I'm not preparing for a demo. All right. So, that's my show and tell. Next.
I'm Tommy Booker, and I've done a couple of seasonal things. This one I did last year with Easter egg. Used that in our home decoration. And I had this ideal of doing enough for all my grandkids that would actually could put stuff in. And I got one done, and that doesn't go very far with 13 grandkids. So I did this one. It opens up. It's got a small cavity in it. I'm going to work on getting that a little more refined and make more look more like the plastic Easter eggs, but not plastic. I got something here that you mentioned the quilt. Is that the shop hop thing that they're doing? My wife wanted to do that. My wife had surgery back in November, and it got complications, and she hadn't been able to get out to do a whole lot of it. But one of the things that, you know, with my wife quilting, we share a Facebook account. So I get a lot of quilting stuff on Facebook. And you kind of go from, you get ideas. You know, so this is a picture of a square quilting square that I saw on Facebook. And I said, that would make something interesting for wood turning. So you do a design, and you'll notice that it has maple, the light color, walnut, the dark color, and the red color, I use bloodwood. And I think I've shared this design with you guys a long time ago, because I've been thinking about this for a long time. But I finally got a piece almost completely glued up. And there again, maple, walnut, and bloodwood. And in putting it together, my design, I had all of this was bloodwood, and I said, that would look good if I had just a little bit of walnut right there on the edge. But the diameter is going to be from corner to corner here. And I'm going to do I was going to try to do a flat board and cut it, and I decided, first one, I'm just going to do a plate. So that's something I've been working on gluing up, and hopefully by next month, or maybe June, I'll have it turned. So
It's gonna be nice.
That's nice, yeah.
The wooden wood.
Pretty cool.
the other two pieces that I still need to glue up.
Is your wife in the quilting?
Yes.
I run into quilting stuff every now and then.
And one of the things,
I try to find a home for it.
one of my plans for this particular piece is to do a plate or a bowl, and her to make a placemat that matches.
About a month ago, I was cleaning out my shop, and I came across a number of rings that I had already glued up for previous projects and segments, and I began to think, wonder what all that would look like if I just glued up all of those more or less in random fashion and put them together, and so that's what this is. I call it my serendipitous conglomeration.
Extraordinary.
But you know, several of these segments down here on the bottom are segments that were left over from previous projects that I did. There's some plywood that I used in here that probably I used to ensure the accuracy of my jig that I was using to cut the segments with. This is a ring that was left over from a pencil cup that I made for my daughter. This was a star shape that I put here, and I had no idea that it was going to come over and down and get that effect when I turned it, and I was rather happy with that. The purple that I used here was something that I tried. That's carpenter's chalk. And I put super glue in there and put chalk in it and let it dry, and it turned out pretty neat. This is a piece of cholla cactus, and I've mounted it on my lathe, and I cut it down to exactly 7/8 of an inch so that it would fit in this piece here. With this piece up here, it wasn't big enough, so I glued a piece of dowel pin inside, and it goes up into these pieces here, and that's how it's attached. And I've got all kinds of wood in here, but my shop doesn't have nearly as many rings and segments laying around as they used to.
And you didn't have to burn them.
That's right. Oh, I don't ever burn.
good.
Now, is that hollowed out or
It is hollowed out.
Yeah.
Yep. I've got that lid stuck on there pretty hard.
Okay.
But it is hollowed.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Fancy.
Well, it's kind of a random arrangement.
A unique, one of a kind in the world.
It is. No doubt about that.
Hello, my name is
Felicity.
Close to the microphone.
There you go.
Hello, my name is Felicity Rodriguez, and today I'm here to show my pin that I made. It is a Liberty Click pin. It's an acrylic pin. I got the acrylic plate from Jim Bob, and I figured out the problem to Ron's clip pins. He had the spring upside down, so I had to fix it for him. And I had made another pin that's for like one of his customers, but I didn't bring it with me today. And I think that's all.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Nice.
My name's Camden Baxter, but this past week I made this Faith, Hope, and Love pin kit with a piece of bataki wood, right?
Bacote.
Bacote?
Bacote.
Okay. That Mr. Jim Bob gave me, and I have somebody buying it for me tonight actually, so this is what I made right here. So.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Great job.
I'm working up in Tulsa. I have a couple of hours, a couple of nights a month to do a little turning. I started a bowl. It was a fresh piece of pecan last time I came in. It was unfinished. I have it finished now. And just have, like I said, it's a natural edge pecan. And I just put lacquer on it. And then I messed around for a couple minutes and built a little Easter egg out of it. Little dowel I had, well, it wasn't a dowel, I had a piece of, I think it's there was a tree here in town.
Right here in town.
I forgot, my name is Ron Peterson.
I'm Dewey. This looked a lot better in the dark.
It looks pretty good right there.
That looks pretty darn good, yeah. Whoa.
One of my first hollow forms, all in grain, which was not fun. I think it cost me a Forstner bid, and my first accident with a reverse. My new lathe has reverse, and I feel more like a wood repairer than a wood turner. But it's just pear on bottom, a little bit of honey locust there, and some mahogany on top.
Sweet. Did you say your name was Dewey McMurray?
You just said Dewey.
I just said Dewey.
Oh.
Bryce Ellis. These are a couple of pieces. There it is. These are a couple of pieces that I got from Max Reich, little cups that he had, and they weren't finished. They were pretty crude. I cleaned up on the inside a little bit, and they can go as a cup, or they can go as what I was thinking about is a dice cup. They work good for that, about that right size there for that. And I'm going to put these two in the raffle, but they're from Max Reich. I'm going to talk about this piece for a minute. It's a piece that's been sitting in my shop for probably since September. I think it's September, October. Tim Cruz brought me a chunk of wood, and it was gnarly. It was all over the place. It's a root burl from mesquite, and I let it sit there and I looked at it. And what am I going to do with it? And I had an idea, but I didn't have it real, and I didn't want to stick it on the lathe without knowing where I'm going with it. So this is where it did have a neck coming up, a little short neck where I had, but it's kind of brittle because the grain is going back and forth, so it wound up with no neck. But the grain on this is extraordinary. I wound up putting tung oil on it last weekend, and this piece. So Tim, when he brought it to me, he asked me to turn a piece for him to sit in his house. So this Tim Cruz is going to get this. I didn't have a way to take the bottom off of that. Everything else, my bowls and everything, I've got a jam chuck, or I've got a different kind of, I've got cold jaws to take bowls and turn them around and do that, but I didn't have any way to take that piece. So I made me a donut chuck. And this one has a ring chuck that fits my Nova chucks, is 2-inch. And then I've got this piece goes in and out. I've got wing nuts that I can do now. Now this is kind of rough, but I put some foam back on this side and this side to keep it from scratching. And it worked pretty good. And if you need it, know that I have it and you can borrow it, or you can come to my shop and use it. So if you got something that really has an odd shape like that one that you need to finish the bottom, it doesn't have a way to hold it in cold jaws, this is another option. It's a donut chuck to finish the bottom of a...
You could grab a sphere in that, couldn't you?
You can grab a spear in there. Last month's demo, I didn't think, I worked on it, sanding it in the demonstration, and I didn't think it'd ever get sanded. I got home and I worked on it with my drill and my 3-inch foam back, or the hook and loop disc that and I sanded and I sanded and sanded, and I was like, holy smokes. This birch, it's just, but I finally got all the scratch marks out of it, and I put finish on it this week. And there's a nice feather across the bottom of that. I think somebody recognized that, and they thought that I glued a crack together, but it's the wood. You can see it on both sides, and it's the feathering in there. The grain on it is just wow.
Was that a crotch?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think so.
I just wondered how it got that interesting pattern.
Jim Bob picked it up at SWAT, and then I got it for the demonstration. This was the second piece of that. Is both of them birch. They were cored out, and we have some of these cored pieces back there to do. He was asking me about his jam chuck with the foam back disc this week to bring it but before he did that, I was already planning to bring it back to him. So I finished this piece and got it at least where I could chuck it up and finish it. And then yesterday I finished it. And this one it's got a lot of interesting character in it. But they're really good shape. One of them will be donated to the club. My wife hasn't said which one she wants yet, so I will see on that. And then one of them will go to the club, and one of them will be ours.
I've seen the buffing wheels at Jim Bob's class or shop, so I
Tell
thought
them
I'd
who you
try.
are, Robert.
What?
Tell them who you are.
Robert Sutter. Nice to meet y'all. But anyway, what kind of wood is this?
Walnut.
Walnut. Took this, carved it out, and then I tried the buffing. still not to the point where I make a claim if I like it or if I don't like it. I did a lot of buffing and it didn't shine like I was wanting to. So anyway, I just brought it just to show. Made this out of cherry and Sandman Dewey encouraged me on sanding, inking sand and sand and sand, and it always comes out just so perfect. He has more patience than I do. But anyway, I made this. And here's another open segmented piece that I did. This is the tallest one that I made so far, and put the stars on it from Jim Bart's directions. And it takes a while to cut 8 stars. I think there's about 2 days of work in it. I work slow. But anyway, I put the stars, and we figured out a way to trim them where they were equal and smooth, and did each one of them and then glued them together, made my ring, and then I put my open segmented rings, made those to fit the size of this ring. So I started here and went down and went up.
How much time do you have invested in a piece like that?
3 years. I'm working off and on, I don't know, probably 4 days, 5 days.
Another thing I forgot to mention, in our inventory back there, we have super glue. We have extra thick and medium, and we have more little bottles of the medium than we have the 2 ounce size, or 1 ounce. But if you need it, buy it. Ron knows how much it costs. So, we still have this much.
I'd be in heaven. And on St. Patrick's Day, my wife was having some of her friends over, and she needed something to put mints on. So this is what she ended up with to put her mints on. After I did it and started looking at it, this kind of looked like a log laid on the ground and some birds in the air. And with enough sleep deprivation, you can see a lot of things. Y'all saw this last month. My wife does all of the coloring on them because I can't do that. My pen goes everywhere and makes a mess. But my wife likes everything in groups. So there's a lot of grouping going on in my house. So I had made this one. And so she wanted 2 other ones to go with it. So these were done with it. And the rings running this way are pretty easy because they're just beads and you just work the beads in. But when you go to burn the lines in, go on the other direction, if that line is not straight, oh, it looks bad. So I came up with a way. This is a tool rest that I made. And doesn't have a very steady hand. And so I'll take a piece of Formica and I will conform it to the exact shape of what it is that I'm going to burn on. And then I will lay it down on top of that and tape it down. And that gives me the ability to run my knife right along the mesa or the piece of formica to keep those lines real straight. I did a few, I tried to do one by hand. It's in the trash.
Decorated firewood.
This was a vase that I had loaned to a girl, and she's an artist, and this had lacquer on it. It was just a solid piece of wood. But she wanted to know what oil paints would stick and not stick to it, this and that. She brought it back, and I kicked it around the shop for probably a year. And I picked it up and decided to finish it and got it hollowed. And the more I hollowed, there were some cracks in here that started showing up. And so once I got through, I decided that was one of the uglier pieces of wood that I had ever come up with. And rather than try to make the ugly wood pretty, I just decided to do something crazy and dye it and burn holes all over it just to make it look different. I guess sometimes I start out with the intentions of embellishing something, and it's made with those intentions. And sometimes you have to embellish something to hide something. In this case, there's a lot of cracks that are being hidden by the embellishment. This next one has absolutely nothing to do with wood turning. But a lot of y'all know I just bought a CNC router trying to learn to use it. And I was making this for a person, and I didn't understand some of the numbers in the routing process. And I thought it was giving me a thickness of what my product needed to be to start with. Well, after things started running, I came to the realization that that number was telling me how deep the router was going to penetrate from the very top of the surface, how deep it was going to go. Well, as y'all can see, there's two spots right here. This wood was at 1.58 inches thick when I started. And it completely ate through it because the router, so over here it was like little thin veneer, and you could see the blue tape that was holding it down through it. So I very carefully peeled this off of the table and glued it back to another substrate, and hoping I could feather those in and make them disappear. And as you can see, that didn't work. So this will be completely cut again. Wow. The fun part is it takes 36 hours to cut this. Wow. Which means that router runs all night long, and it's attached to the wall in my bedroom, in the garage. So all night long you have this drone of the router running all night long. My wife loves it.
Gorgeous.
And there was no sanding. There's no sanding on this whatsoever. That's actually the machine finish on it. So it was just thought it was interesting and just something different.
Yes, it is.
I didn't know that Jim Bob was going to do the demo today on this because I've been out of pocket. I'm Mark Middleton. And so he had kind of challenged me the last time I saw him to do something. So I actually made a couple of what he's going to do his demo on. This one was some apricot I had, but the bugs absolutely love it, so it was really difficult to find one that had just a couple of bug holes in it, but I went ahead and left them. And then the walnut cabochons that go in there. And then this one was a piece of red oak. It's amazing what a big piece of wood you got to start with to end up with that, you know, when you're doing it flat. But one of these sides is easy to come out and one side's hard. But these are not glued in, and I have to take I usually take my wrench from my chuck and pop to knock the other one out. But anyway, it was crazy that I had two of them laying on my table saw. Didn't know whether he was going to get to show everybody how to do it. It is a fun process. And messing with live edge bowls, they're a hoot to make. They're a pain to sand, because if you try to sand them like a normal bowl, you're sanding this with it spinning, and then your hand comes out, and then this is going to take the bark off of both this and this. So there's a lot of hand sanding involved making these silly things. But this is sassafras, and it's like Bryce's birch. They don't sand with a hoot, and by the time you get down to wherever there is some places that just didn't hold up as well, and then in between the grains, and God, it's hard to try to sand out that. But anyway, I love the bark on sassafras. I love smelling it when I'm working with it. It's a pain, but I like it.
How did you sand the bottom of that? Did you use
I'll use my laser.
a laser? Oh,
Yeah,
a laser.
yeah. But when you're making one of them, I turn it around and I do like, this is a vacuum chuck. So I put it in here like this, and then I still use the tailstock. And I take it all the way down to a little nub, and then I can take it away, and you have very little pressure on this silly thing. But it's really good for sanding that part of it. And so it works really well. And I've got another one I was working on that's more like, it's a tall one with more of a round like Ron's. But when it's spinning around, if you use these too long, the stinking plastic gave it up. So my live edge bowl come off and hit me in the shoulder, and I lost about a ½ inch of bark. So I had to take it all off and make it a natural edge instead of a live edge. But anyway, it was so pain that you go to that much trouble to do it, and then your plastic thing breaks. But I replaced it with, you know, built another one. It goes in this little thing, and that screws onto my shaft. And another story about that, when I went in to buy the part, I went into O'Toole, just and said, hey, I need another one of them. They bought $265 worth of pins from me. Because I signed with my pen I had in my pocket. And they said, it's for sale. I said, I think this one's a Cole, that's why I'm carrying it. They said, you got more? And I went out of the truck, come back. They bought $265 worth of pins. So I kind of got that for free. And of course it's Easter. With it being Easter, I made a whole bunch of eggs. My granddaughter likes shiny. She's not 3 yet. So she likes shiny, so I made some shiny ones for her. This was the spare whenever she ends up losing the other one. And I made a bunch of them, and I tell my neighbors ahead of time, the ones that have little kids, and I hide wooden Easter eggs in their yards. And then the kids get, I tell them, you got one, you know, when you find it, you got to let your brother look. But I made this one. It's the only wood I've ever turned. I waxed it so it's hard to open. But the gram matches up and everything. But this is the only wood that's ever choked me up, and it does it every time. Mimosa. And it's kind of Russian olivey. It looks okay. The only thing I can say, if you're going to make one of these, do not try to put when you're finishing, be real careful about this edge. Keep it raw, because if you don't, when I put it together, you can't feel that line, but you can see it because it took a color. So if you don't want that line, which I wished it didn't have the line, but It did. Another,
Mimosa.
what?
Let me say this about mimosa.
Okay,
It's a wood that is, there's several woods that are really bad, and mimosa is one of them.
okay, I didn't know that. I knew Coca-Cola was supposed to be, but it doesn't bother me.
Is another one.
You, okay?
Uh-huh.
Well, this
It's a
one's the only one that
cardiac.
bothered me, and it
Right.
bothers me. But I made these, a salt and pepper shaker, one I want, this, and they're, the way I put them together is they're threaded, which is one thing, but the trick to get them both to fit right, gotta get the salt off the edge. But when you tighten it up to get it where the grain matches, when it tightens up, that was my challenge, and that was actually what I was trying to accomplish when I did this. That was the whole idea of the project. But zebra wood was a perfect one to show up any flaws. But that's a little, mostly I hadn't been doing nothing because I've had my grandbaby all the time. And that's a good thing, but you can't get nothing done.
I bought some PVC from them as well,
Uh-huh.
and you might not have made much money at $265 for what they charge for this.
Well, that one's a
At
whole
least
lot
my
heavier
experience.
duty than the last one. It
They
cost
are.
$23.
Yeah,
Oh, they are high?
they're pretty proud of their stuff. I hadn't been able to do turning for a while, and I finally got to a point where I needed to get out there and get a fix with some shavings. And so I pulled a little, or I watched a video, and a guy made what he called a Viking bowl. And I tried to duplicate it. Oh, by the way, my name's Scott Dooley. Sorry I left that out. But I tried to duplicate what he did, rounding the edges and all. I really needed a little bit deeper blank to get it exactly like what he was doing, but turned out to be a real nice little piece. Didn't take very long to do. But I was doing this to kind of get back to the feel of the turning tools and all, and then I had to go through the process of sharpening all my gouges. But I had a custom order for a couple of bowls that I needed to do for retirement gifts, and so I did this as a practice to get to these. So these were commission bowls that I did, and then he wanted information engraved on the top, which has got a name, it's got a position, and then the dates that they worked at the company. And the other one has another name and retirement date, etc. These are the second and third bowls I've done for this person, and so hopefully we'll be able to get a few more down the road. I had a hard time finding walnut. I actually bought this out at Acacia, and they happened to have a piece that was 11 inches wide, 3 inches thick. But the going rate for a walnut right now, especially that thick, is $18 and some change. And so the bowl blank cost about $54 by the time I paid tax and things like that on it.
So is that with your discount?
I did get the discount, so, and if you don't know that, we do, they are one of our corporate sponsors for the club, and they will give you a 10% discount, I think, on the price.
Wood.
Yeah, on the wood. Anyway, so that's what I've done recently.
Good.
This is one of the bowls that was in the display down at City Bank, and I did not put my name on the bottom of it, but it is one that I made back in 2019, so I'm going to take it home.
Freddie Hicks. I've got one little thing I made. It's made out of a pool ball. It's a little box. It's got a pool ball and some corian on it. That's it.
Really cool.
Don't leave yet. You gotta have.
Act like you're talking there,
Yeah.
Freddie. Hold the little box up.
All right. I'm documenting the stuff. Camden, I need your picture. off.
So where do you get your cool?
Garage sale.
What does it do to your tools?
Do what?
What does it do to your tools?
It's just polyester resin, that's all it is. Polyester.
Okay, but you said
Yeah, it's polyester resin. Let me get back over here. It's polyester resin. Some pool balls you come across are made out of phenolic resin.
Okay.
But those are the good ones, those are expensive. These, you can buy a whole box of these for about $35 or $40 off eBay or somewhere. But these are polyester. Polyester resin, like fiberglass resin. That's what they're made of.
Where do you get your chlorine?
Man, I have had it for years, so just scraps.
If you need corian, I've got some.
And see, that's how you get it. Somebody comes to buy it and then they offer it, because that's, I have never found it any other way.
I got a bunch too.
And he always had a bunch. He was the source of most of it.
So where's your secret stash coming from?
From,
Right. Are we ready for the raffle?
I'll think of it.
How come yours are red and mine are yellow?
Ron has an announcement.
It's a comment. In being up in Tulsa, the group up there, Northeast Oklahoma Turning Association, has a larger group than what we have. They probably have, I don't know, 60 active and probably quite a few more than that on the roster. They conduct their meetings a little differently than we do, of course, but what I've noticed is we have a show and tell every month. They have a show and tell once a quarter. They have some nice things, but what I want to comment is that what we see here, in my opinion, is just absolutely astonishing. Every month, new stuff, incredible looking objects. I don't inspect them closely to see, if they're museum grade or anything like that, but they're beautiful. The segmented things and just the variety of things is just amazing. And I just want to comment that I've enjoyed them. I enjoy them a lot. They have their own shop. They have 9 large lathes. I work on it's like what we have at our classes, the Jet 1221. But they do have a couple of the Powermatics if you have a very large project. Well, anyway, all that said, I just want to basically give everybody praise here because I'm just amazed at the craftsmanship and the variety of objects. They also have a raffle, but they do not have raffling of their own invention, of their own projects, which I had commented that might be nice, but I don't know. They haven't changed. I've only been there a month or two. So thank you very much. I think everybody ought to receive a round of their own applause.
We met a bunch of them at SWAT.
Oh, yeah? Yes. Thank you.
Hunter Millworks.